Hello and welcome to another Kerfuffle panel webinar. Today I'm joined by our guest Bernadette Sheridan, Head of Business Development at PayProp UK. Bernadette, how are you doing?
Very well. All the better for seeing you this morning, David.
It's
Sophie
nice
and David.
We also have with us another David. We've got David Votta. He is the owner of Votta Sales and Lettings. David, how are you doing?
Very well, David. Good to see another David on the call.
You can never have too many. You can never have too many of them. We have Andrew Jack with us from Belvoir in Edinburgh. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm good, David. Yep, good to see you.
And last but not least, Sophie Lang. Sophie joins us from Lewis, Horton and Willis. You're the Director of Lettings there in Cornwall. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Good to have you all. Today, we're here to discuss a subject that is sometimes a subject that people approach with a little bit of trepidation within the lettings industry, because we as agents sit somewhere between wanting to welcome automation into our lives and also being extremely hands-on and wanting to make sure that things don't go wrong. And sometimes we feel when we give it all up to the computer or to the machine, we lose that element of control and that element of personal contact as well. So it's a massive leap of faith, particularly when it's anything to do around the handling of money and payments. All the more so in our everyday lives, we're very careful, but when you are entrusted with client money, you cannot afford for the reputation of the business to take a wrong turn with that. And I guess, Bernadette, that's something that you, it's an element of resistance you must come across every day when talking to agents.
Yes, and it's a massive responsibility, and we have a phenomenal dev team and senior management team within the UK that actually ensure that everything is dealt with efficiently, accurately and compliantly.
So, Andrew, perhaps I could ask you, in terms of this automation, you must have shopped around and used or considered other suppliers as well. What made you trust PayProp at the end of the day, to automate something as vital to your business as those rental payments?
Well, I think PayProp's obviously a well-recognised name. It's a big organisation. It's very well run, and as Bernadette said, they have an excellent product, an excellent dev team that's pieced the product together. So the reputation goes before it. So it wasn't a major leap of faith. I suppose once you've made the decision that you want to go down this route of automation, there probably are only a handful of options, and to my mind, PayProp was probably the only answer to that.
Fantastic. Sophie, how long have you been using PayProp for, and what, if you perhaps could highlight for us, what's the sort of difference between in your business and your sort of everyday process before and after? What does it look like today, and what did it look like before?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been with PayProp since early 2018. I think I've been running the business for about 9 years. We've got a big student portfolio down here, so I had 600 payments coming in on the 1st of every month, and then our residential throughout the month. And basically, I was sat in a dark room for several days of the month, not talking to anybody, reconciling payments, and paying landlords, which is, great as part of the job, but that isn't why I'm in lettings. And I'm a people person, and I like to go out and speak to people, and I wasn't doing that anymore, and I wasn't really enjoying my job as much anymore. And looking at our processes in the office, although it's a big responsibility, rents, it is a process that is perfect for automation, because you're not making money by sitting there doing payments. I understand you get your commission, but that's not what you're being paid for. You're being paid for tenancy management. So to actually go out there and get more business, I was working in the business rather than on the business, and my time was more precious than sat staring at a computer screen, manually reconciling payments. So PayProp came around at a really opportune time for me when I was really struggling with that. So like I said, like Andrew said, once you make that decision of doing that, then, PayProp was the only option for us. They were great. The team are just so supportive. And we made that leap. Everyone's scared about change. But once you make that decision, you kind of go into it full guns
most
blazing.
importantly, they've got you out of that darkened room. I can see.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, my clients know my face again. It's great. I can actually go and see them and talk to them.
Well, that was going to be my next question. David, you've also embraced this process. I know you're a strong advocate for the lettings industry. I don't think I'm being unkind when I say that lettings and management has always been seen as the less glamorous sibling of the sales side of our businesses, where you get to go out and show fantastic properties and maybe you're dealing with the cut and thrust of major negotiation, whereas lettings can seem a little bit admin heavy, not quite as sexy as sales, let's face it. But it doesn't need to be that way if you can free your time up to do some of the more interesting side of your business. So tell us how you've done that.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head, really, David, because from the sales perspective, it does look a lot sexier. You do the job, you do the viewing, you hand it over to Progresso, and you get all the nice bits. With lettings, when you're managing a portfolio, you're managing people that have got very different personalities. So you might got off the phone to one landlord that's lovely, and then the next one's an absolute nightmare, and all these demands. And as we know, COVID's brought out the worst in people. And everyone I speak to across the country have also agreed that COVID have brought the Muppets out the woodwork. And it seems to be that there's a lot of people that have more time on their hands to find problems with bits and pieces. But for me, it was an absolute no-brainer. And the thing is, managing properties is very difficult. It's very heavily regulated, so much legislation. And I mean, I met a landlord just yesterday, and he said, yeah, showed me the property, done a great job of the property. And he said, I'd like to manage it myself. And I was like, why? Why would you want to do that? And then we ran through a few bits like, are you registered with the ICO? And, are you up to speed with all your regulations and bits and pieces like that? And I just threw a few bits at him that he didn't spot, just doing a visual check of the property. By the end of it, he's coming on a managed service and he's taking rent and legal cover because I've uncovered that need. And the thing is, with a lot of salespeople, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but there's that little tunnel vision of let's get the listing, let's get the job, regardless of it. But we've all got to focus on that managed service because we're the experts. We go to, I don't know how many webinars and seminars and regional meetings and conferences I go to. And, when lockdown first hit, I think I signed up for every Property Mark webinar I was going. So my brain's got to be worth a fortune at some point. So for me, absolute no-brainer. I saw it back in 2016 when I was a regional representative or executive for Isle of Property Mark for Kent. And I think it was Martin Bunty and one of the other guys came along and they presented in front of my region. And I thought this was amazing. So I went back to my employer then. I said, you've got to get PayProp, because I was filling this bucket full of clients. I was hitting my targets, my listing targets, and getting all these awards. But I had this leaky bucket in property management where the property management weren't looking after the portfolio and they weren't updating landlords on rent. So I have a landlord ring me in the lettings branch, say, David, you sold me this service, yet where's my rent? No one's talking to me. No one's answering the phone at the centralized call center. And I'm thinking that's wrong. And the companies I work for, so it's too expensive, David. I said, it's not expensive, not as expensive as losing 5 to 10 landlords.
So true. Because if you are going to sort of leak landlords at any point, it's always going to be, no one will ever say, oh, I'm sorry, but I did not like the way you handled that repair. That might happen every now and again, but it's really around payments. They want to know that the payments are reconciled properly, that the money hits the account when you say it's going to hit the account. They have a clear statement, really important for accounting. And they want to know that that money that they're entrusting you with is effectively safe and it's not going anywhere else. And that's the only thing that keeps landlords up at night is lost income. Yeah. So Andrew, other than sort of the obvious features of reconciling payments, what is it about PayProp that you like?
Listen, there's so much of it that's good stuff. I think I hate the mundane and the kind of process and the repetitive tasks. So anything that kind of is going to take that out of my hands, I'm all in favour of. And I assume that everybody else doesn't like that either. So when it comes to my team, I think that they should be doing more exciting stuff than doing the kind of mundane. So I like the fact that it does that automation. It makes it really simple. It's really intuitive. And it just gives us that time and the ability to go off and focus on some of the other stuff that Sophie and David have touched on there. So listen, there's loads of stuff that's in there that's good. The statements, oh goodness, my mind's gone blank now. I'm so excited about the whole PayProp thing. I've gone off. I've gone off message.
It's certainly. I think Bernadette, you'd agree. I mean, you've sat quietly there watching this, but that's 3 very great advocates for your product. The agents that you deal with, once they switch over, I think they become such fervent fans because you're giving them the gift of time effectively. Is that the feedback that you're getting on the whole from the people that you're dealing with?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, the first time that I actually met Andrew Jack, and he may be prone to a bit of excitement here, because the first time I ever met him, he was going around this whole conference saying, go and see PayProp, go and see PayProp, you need PayProp, to virtually everybody at this event. And what does happen is we do tend to have sort of raving fans, because once you've used it, you wouldn't lose it, because actually comparatively, I was working as a lettings director when I first saw it, and I saw it back in, I think it was about 2016, and I was like, oh my goodness, where has this been all my life? This is amazing. The one thing that gives so much grief to a lettings agent is not getting those rents right. You only have to get 1 or 2 wrong, and that's it. You know, your reputation is ruined with that landlord. You can't undo it. That's the point. And the money is the most important thing that they have at any moment in time. And PayProp even does so much more than just that. All of the communications become automated. The remittances, the text messages, everything that the agents ask for, we work on, and it goes, if they ask for additional things, we work on it, and it goes into a development list and is worked on.
So in order, it's a constantly evolving solution.
100%, yeah.
So I'm a visual person, David. I like to see pictures. I like to see things. So the dashboard when you log in at the start is a great feature, because it keeps you right. It shows you exactly what you need to be looking at, all the things you need to be keeping an eye on, the money that needs to be reconciled, the payments that need to be approved, the arrears, and the little graph on the right-hand side that tracks your commission, which tells you what your progress is, which is good for people like me that can only work in pictures, can't process lots of data, just need pictures. So that element of it is really useful as well and really beneficial.
That's fantastic. So, with agents, there's always a resistance to bringing in new solutions. We famously love talking about bits of prop tech that might revolutionize our lives, but when we introduce them to our staff members, everybody goes, "Oh, I don't want to use that," or we've always done it one way. Let's just carry on doing it, even if it takes us 10 times longer. And there may be some sort of hesitation when you bring in automation with staff, particularly that they feel that maybe this process might replace them, rather than them say that it makes their life easier, they might actually feel a bit threatened and say, well, look, PayProp's going to actually take over my job. But Sophie, that hasn't necessarily been the case for you. You feel that you can actually get more done.
Yeah, absolutely. Me and my branch manager used to share the role, obviously holidays, etc. I mean, the good thing about PayProp is, she was a bit averse to change at first when we spoke. I think that the biggest thing for us was, opening a new rent account. You're changing all where your rents are going, but the team was so great at handling that and communicating that to our current tenants and moving that across that it was seamless. We had no issues. But yeah, it's meant that now she's able to go out. She's great on the front end, going to see new developments and going out to, to business generate, which she wasn't able to do before. We couldn't leave the office for big periods of time because we were so stuck having to do this reconciliation. So it's actually she's found that there's other parts of the job she loves. That she kind of lost love for previously just because she didn't have the time to do them. So it reignited about business generation, which was something we'd lost a bit because of just no time.
And I dare say that's probably where the income is. You know, if you're able to go out and generate business, that's pound productive behavior rather than sat there sort of, you know,
I mean,
fiddling
two
around
things,
with
main
payments.
things for us is that over those we've seen two things that have made us more money: less arrears, because of the automation, the chasing, invoicing tenants 3 days or however many days you choose before to remind them their rent's due, has made a massive difference to tenants not missing rents. Our arrears are at all-time low. And then also business generation, we're able to go out and get more business and spend more time with our clients, which means we can increase our fees because we're showing that, you know, we're doing more with time. So it's brought in more income from other areas, not just automating the process.
Well, I was going to ask, I can see David nodding away there, so he obviously agrees with everything everybody's
The Churchill dog and I, yeah. Oh, yes.
Like the Churchill dog. Oh, yes. But David, when you're, you know, on the client side of things, obviously, yes, they want the money in their bank and they want a clear statement. But do you sell this as, look, this is what we do, this is the process that we use, and this is why it's better for you, Mr. Landlord?
Yeah.
And what's their reaction?
They like it. I mean, a lot of companies I've worked for, the rent would come in on the 1st, the landlord probably wouldn't see it till the 4th, you know. And we always say to landlords, look, have a buffer of a couple of days, weekends, bank holidays. But usually if that rent comes in on a Monday, we reconcile it in the morning. They're going to get it in the afternoon with a statement, with a remittance, with everything they need. And also with a lot of landlords, whether they're single landlords, multi-landlords, they can say, oh, David, my accountant, they want April to April's worth of accounts. Can you do that for me? Yeah, let me just do it whilst I've got you on the phone. Okay, yeah, give me a second. Okay, there you go, job done. And they're over the moon with it. It's just a seamless process. And there's just that notification of knowing what's going on. The statements follow the remittance as well. And it's just full transparency. They really like it. I've not had one landlord complain about it. And then also we set them up for the PayProp owner app. So, you know, if ever they want to log in, they can.
So no more sleepless nights. You can sort of log in at 2 a.m. and check where your accounts are.
If they're up that time of night and they think, oh, do you know what? Because, you know, in an ideal world, a landlord, when they have a property, they would have a separate bank account for that money to go in. They would have a separate email for all the correspondence to go in. That would make sense. But a lot of people don't do that. They lead busy lives and they don't think things like that. I always advise it. So things can get lost. However, if they got something at their fingertips, then it's there. You know, if we're running a busy office, oh, I can't get through to property management. Okay, well, yeah, I sent an email like 36 seconds ago and no one's responded. Okay, well, try logging into your PayProp owner app. You know, let's live in the real world here.
It sounds like it's literally sort of revolutionized your businesses and the way that you handle payments, and freed up a lot of time. I can't think of anything else that PropTech should be doing other than gifting agents time, which is the one thing that we're all extremely, we're confident that if we win a listing, we can let it. We're confident that we're good at managing property.
Yeah.
But what we always complain about is lack of time, universally. So I think this seems to tick all of those boxes.
It's funny, David, because, you know, Sophie hit the nail on the head because she spent so much time in that dark, dismal room. You forget about what you love about the job. You know, we love meeting people. We love, you know, moving people into their home. We love changing circumstances. And you can't do that all the time. You're getting bogged down on the mundane stuff. And conversations I had were, oh, well, I've got a really good accounts clerk and, you know, I don't want to lose her. Well, you won't, because you'll just put her on the front end and help you generate more business. Like Sophie said, you're visiting new sites, you're making more money front end, and your back end is looking after it even more. And you'll run a far effective business. And I've had people say, well, it's expensive. And I say, well, okay, you're going out to a landlord, you're saying my fee is X, Y, Z. Then the landlord says, well, I can get it cheaper down the road. And then you go, whoa, I'm the best agent here. Why shouldn't you go with me? Well, they need to apply that philosophy to the PropTech as well, because Harry Truman, she's the vice president of Votta Property Mark, and we also use the same phrase. Well, she come up with it. It's brilliant. It's like when some people, you know, they say that software is no good, but then they're only using 5% of the software. Whereas if they understood 100% of the software, they can work really, really effectively. So this is what I find really funny when you see all these Facebook groups and people, can you recommend them and can you recommend them? It's like, oh, I had an awful time, oh, they were great and this and that. I mean, you know, referencing companies and all that kind of stuff. Who do you go to? Because everybody's got an opinion and they've had their own experience. You've just got to look at the figures and think, right, how can I make that work for me? And like Sophie said, from a massive portfolio, that transition, that's a hard job, but they made that seamless for her. For me, I was a lone ranger and I set up in October 2018 on my own with one property. PayProp was the first investment I had, and I knew that I was going to grow that portfolio. And because I had PayProp, and you imagine I was doing viewings, listings, lets, property management.
I was just about to ask you the number of properties that one person can manage on their own. Is only so much if you're handling all of that admin yourself.
I got to 85, David. I got to 85 properties on my own, as well as new listings, you know, competing with my competitors as well. I mean, I was working 13, 14-hour days, you know, but I was loving it. I could, all my back-end stuff was done. I'd reconcile all my payments at 7 o'clock in the morning, then go out, do my listings, do what I needed to do. And I got an effective business. Then lockdown hit, and then came out of lockdown. We had 3 or 4 very good months. Then I employed a property manager. Then I employed a neg. And then we've just grown exponentially from there. And I think I probably couldn't have done that if I didn't have PayProp working in the background. So for me, it is priceless. I don't look at what it costs anymore because I know what I'm getting. I know I'm getting great value. I'm getting something that has got my back, basically. And yesterday I looked at an account and there was a double management fee charge. And I looked and went, why has PayProp done that? I thought, no, actually, it's me. It's user error. The idiot put that in because the month before I didn't add that. So whenever something goes wrong, it's only down to the user. That's what I love about PayProp. So I'll ring them up. I'll say to the support team, guys, I've done something. Tell me if I've been an idiot. Yeah, David, you've been an idiot. And that's what I love. And they just talk you through it. You learn how to do it. And your knowledge just grows forever with the platform.
It's not president-elect for nothing. Even that little speech there has made me feel more invigorated about the management. Thank you. Thanks for the pep talk. Bernadette, this must be lovely to hear. And I'm as you said earlier, you have some very passionate advocates there, some raving fans. But obviously, everybody that you talk to and everybody that you're helping along the way, they must give you similar feedback, and it must be great to hear this.
Yes, 100%. I mean, it is lovely to hear it. It's almost quite humbling, actually. And yeah, they've touched on the one thing they haven't touched on is the reporting, which I think is phenomenal, actually. Because every single figure in PayProp that goes through the platform can actually be pulled out, and you can utilize it in.
We're too busy generating new business, Bernadette. We're not looking at figures. We haven't got time for that.
Do you know what?
I'll comment on that because we do produce some funky reports from PayProp. We've teamed up with James Grew at Automated Accounting, who's a PayProp. I don't know what the relationship is actually, to be honest with you, but he's an online good guy. He's got a brain the size of a planet, and he can just make make things happen. So he now produces these really funky reports. And our properties are split into portfolios. So we have portfolio managers that look after specific portfolios of property. So we can now track the performance of those portfolios, and each portfolio manager can see exactly what the performance of their work is. And we can reward them on that. So we can now measure the growth, we can measure the performance, the revenue that comes from that, and each of where the different revenue streams come from. And we now measure that, and we can reward our property managers based on that. So it gives them a new
So from that sort of bird's eye view management perspective, previously you would have had to ask those portfolio managers to give you the figures and provide you with the info. This way you're able to tell them before they tell you exactly what the figures are, and to really monitor their progress very closely, aren't you?
Exactly. And it has a motivating effect. It has a real positive impact because they can now see where they can drive. In effect, each portfolio is its own little business unit. So they can now see how they can progress that and make that happen. So it gives their career a bit more, property management, it's not lots more than fixing broken washing machines and unblocking toilets. That's the really horrible part of it. But there's an awful lot of good stuff to it. The people part, we've touched on that already. And PayProp just gives us the tools to basically to put that into action and make that happen. So it's not just me in our place that gets excited about PayProp.
sounds like you've got every reason to get excited about it, and it's an absolutely superb tool. And I know that it's revolutionized a lot of property management businesses by taking the sting out of what traditionally has always been those pain points. And if you ever sort of go into, as I have, into property management departments, and you ask them which bit of their job they don't love, it's always going to come up around sort of the admin around payments and having to deal with landlords. You know, if you've missed something and you've not reported on time. And David said, if, you know, previously, if the rent came in on the 1st, they were accounting by the 4th. I've got to tell you, David, that's positively fast for some businesses.
Yeah.
I know of some property management businesses where it will sit there and it'll wait and it'll wait. Whereas with PayProp, you don't have to worry about that. It's constantly watching your back and making sure that people have the payments as and when it comes in. And it sounds like it helps you to keep on top of the arrears. I'm sold, Bernadette. What can I tell you?
Okay, all right. Well, we'll have a conversation after this then.
Fantastic. I'd like to thank all of our panelists again for giving your time and also your opinions on PayProp. I know none of you have been paid to be here today, but it's great to see some passionate fans out there. And thank you, Bernadette, once again.
Thank you. And thank you, Sophie, David and Andrew, for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Welcome.